Welcome to the 2012 debut edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Bain. The SVSU football team already with 2 victories under their belt. We'll review that with SVSU head football coach Jim Collins, and we'll also get an update on volleyball from their head coach Will Stanton. That's all coming up on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. The SVSU football team now 2-0 on the young season. I'm joined by their head coach Jim Collins. And Coach, first of all, always good to get a couple of wins under your belt early in the year.
Absolutely, JJ. Our goal was to get off to a great start, and we've gotten off to a great start. We've got to continue to get better every week, but it's nice being 2-0 right now.
We'll go back to week 1 and your victory over Valdosta State, because that was definitely a thriller. You get the number 8 team in the nation coming to your place on Saturday night, and Cardinals pull out a thriller 28-24.
You know, that was a total victory for the whole university and the football team. We had a great crowd at the game, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of students there and supporters, and for our guys to go out and play like they did in that environment, I think was awesome. A great way to get the season started, and a great way, I think, to make a statement as a football program.
And that was a game, too, that had a lot of outstanding efforts on both sides of the football, but the one that's gotten the most attention is Jeff Janis, because 14 catches, 167, 3 touchdowns, and he's the GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week for Week 1.
Absolutely, and Jeff had an outstanding game, and I think that if you look at Jeff's progression as a receiver, it's awesome. He's gotten better, and he's worked harder at it, and you know, it takes all the other 10 guys and the components of the whole offense to get Jeff going, but you know, John had a great game throwing the football. The O-line did a great job of protecting for him and giving him time, and then I think Michael Albrecht and the other receivers contributed enough so that we could get Jeff singled up most of the day, and if they're going to single up with Jeff, he's going to win that battle most of the time.
And you mentioned those 2 receivers. Each of them had a critical catch on the game-winning touchdown drive, because Janis makes the key catch for you on 4th down to keep the drive going, and then Michael Albrecht catches the game winner. Absolutely,
and Jeff had made an earlier catch on a 3rd down where he did a great job on that drive. You know, both of them had an outstanding game, and that's what you want to see out of your 2 junior receivers that you expect to lead the club in the receiving corps. But as I said, a total team victory. The defense played outstanding and got us the ball. The special teams, the kicking game was very good. And as I said, I'm really proud of the way our front 5 protected the quarterback that day.
Again, those front 5, none of them had played or had started a college football game at that position, because you had 3 players who were suspended for violating team rules. But then you go ahead and you have 56 pass attempts, and they don't allow 1 sack.
Absolutely. And you know, you've got Zach Sesich, who unselfishly moved over to the left tackle position from tight end and did a great job of protecting the quarterback's blind side. And then the other 4 guys obviously making their first start ever in a college game, coming through with a sackless performance. I thought that was just testament not just to those players, but to our offensive line coach, Mike Ancona, getting those guys prepared, especially against an opponent of that level.
And you look at the other side of the football, again, the one thing that you certainly left room for improvement with when in the Valdosta game was turnovers. So your defense was put in a lot of tough positions, but they really rose to the challenge when necessary.
Absolutely, with the exception of the easy score that Valdosta had after we turned it over inside our own 5. I thought they did a great job of just playing team defense, preventing big plays or preventing a lot of big plays. We gave up the 1. But the other thing they did is they swarmed to the football. I really liked the way our defense pursued the football and tackled that day. I thought they made a statement in a lot of ways in terms of what type of defensive team they want to be.
And certainly that's a great way to open up the home portion of your schedule as well. And you got a good crowd coming out, considering it was the Saturday night of Labor Day weekend, I thought.
Yeah, and that's what I was excited about, to see the students there. You know, I know most of the students probably were vacationing with their families on Labor Day, but we had a lot show up for the game, and I thought that was great. And the bottom line is our players are going to thrive at home when we have great crowds and enthusiastic crowds. And I thought it was, you know, the whole sideline atmosphere and crowd atmosphere really helped our guys win that game.
So SVSU winning that one by a final of 28-24, and then going on the road to take on a GLIAC newcomer in Malone University. But before we get to the game, they play at Fawcett Stadium, which is right next door to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you had a chance to take your team to the Hall of Fame on Friday night, and it was interesting to be part of that experience because so many guys, they walk into the room with all the busts, and they're really awed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how long they stayed in that room. The Hall of Fame is decent enough size to where you could really wander around, but they stayed in that bust room. I think everybody felt in awe and inspired by that. And a great experience. I think not just a great experience for our players to see the history of pro football, but to do it together as a team. And that was a neat thing. And whenever I'm around our football team, and I really believe we have a family atmosphere in our program, and to see the way our guys handled themselves and how they enjoyed that, I think was a great experience for not just the players, but for the coaches as well, and everyone involved.
So then the next day you do go and take on Malone, and you're able to get a victory, 37-14, the final score. And that's another one where you get off to a very quick start. You get an impressive opening drive for a touchdown. Then you get a turnover, and you go with a big play to Michael Albrecht for another touchdown. And right away you're up 14-zip.
And it was almost too easy initially. And I think that Malone did a good job of settling back down and getting some things going offensively. But I liked the way we ran the football. That was a thing we had a tougher time doing against Valdosta because of the defensive looks they were giving us. But Malone gave us some looks to take away the passing game. They played with two safeties deep the majority of the time and pretty much double covered Janice for a lot of that game. But that enabled us to run the football better, opened up the running game. And as we talk, in our offense, if a team's going to try to shut down the run, we've got to be able to effectively throw it, and vice versa. And I thought we did a great job of getting the run game going, and we ran it a bunch of times. It was great to see Hogue and Lark and Drummond and Jamon Martin all get significant yards on those carries.
And that was a game where you were able to get a lot of players, a lot of game experience because, again, you had the lead. Malone fought back, made it 14-7, but then you were able to get a couple of key plays and some points right before halftime to make it 24-7. And, again, I thought at that point really established a good, firm hold on the game.
Sure, and it was great to see us making field goals. It's not great to see us not execute and score touchdowns in the red zone, but to execute the field goals I thought was good to see Scott Stanford do that. And then to get the ball back, we were +3 in the turnover, which was good because the week before we were -4. So all of those things I think contributed to, us being able to effectively improve from week 1 to week 2, and also get stuff going in terms of the run game, in terms of seeing other people play, developing our depth. All those things important as the season carries on.
You mentioned those turnovers. You had them in a variety of fashions. The last one where Jeff Heath, fakes as though he's going to be coming on a blitz. The quarterback stops accounting for him, and then he drops back into coverage and has a great interception. But the other two came on the pass rush, and that was something. You had a great pass rush all game long. I think you finished the game with 6 sacks.
Absolutely, and we're in the plus category in sacks big time right now, and knock on wood, we got to keep it that way. But to pressure the quarterback and to see us get in the quarterback's face and even force him to throw some bad throws if we didn't get to him, I thought was really good. I think as we go through the season, we're going to have to get better in a lot of areas. And if we can continue to pressure the quarterback, it's going to put our defense in great situations.
You've now had a chance to review 2 games. What do you think you've been able to do most effectively through those 2 games?
Well, the big thing for us right now, I think, is a lot of people are handling the football on offense, and I think that's a good thing. We've spread the wealth. In game 1, we were able to throw it more, and we had a couple receivers catch a lot of passes. Game 2, we were running it more and spreading things out that way. I think having that balance on offense is going to be the key to having a good offense. And then defensively, I like the way we're running to the football. We're a physical team right now, but more than anything, we're playing with great effort. And then when you watch the improvements I think we've made in the kicking game, one of the key areas where I thought we've really gotten better is covering kicks. We're running down. We've got some guys playing with reckless abandon on the kickoff team and in the kicking game in general, and we're doing a better job of, I think, pursuing the football, preventing big plays, and we made a couple big plays as well.
And again, a couple of times on that kick coverage, Justin McLean, who's a fine return man for Malone, you're able to bring him down inside the 15-yard line, which I think is testament to that. And again, it seems like you also have more speed there on special teams.
Well, it's more speed and more desire, and that's what we've developed in the offseason, I think, in terms of our young guys playing those roles in the kicking game and being inspired and wanting to be involved in the kicking game. And you see the Zane Brugers and the Casey Kellys and Caleb Higbee and Trevor Blattner, Sean Wren. I mean, those guys are flying down the field, knocking people over, wreaking havoc, and that's what you want out of your kicking game.
So SVSU having that in addition to everything going on with the offense and defense. A little bit later on, we'll talk to head coach Collins about their upcoming matchup with Findlay. But when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU defensive coordinator Todd Stepsis. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week, Spring Hill Sweek's Female Athlete of the Week is Kelly Close. Close, a freshman on the SVSU women's tennis team, had an impressive weekend to open her collegiate career. Close went undefeated in 6 total matches over the season opening weekend for the Cardinals. Close won all of her number 3 single matches in runaway fashion, and in number 1 doubles to record a perfect 3-0 mark. Kelly Close, your Spring Hill Sweek's Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU football defensive coordinator Todd Stepsis. And Todd, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. I love talking with you on these days after a win.
Well, not only a win, but a defensive performance where you force 3 turnovers and get 6 sacks. That always brings a smile to your face.
Always. It's one of those things where guys were playing with a little bit more speed, a little bit more aggressiveness, and the opponent probably had a little bit to do with it too. They gave us some things that we could take advantage of, but yeah, it's a good performance overall.
And this is a defensive unit that, lost a few players from last season, but you return a lot of experience on this defensive unit.
Finally, it's been the last couple of years. It's been a lot of young guys taking some lumps, but now we have some guys that have 10, 11, 12, 13 plus starts underneath their belts. So that always helps. They've played under the lights. They've played in pressure situations. So they have a lot more confidence. Obviously, the older they get.
And you talk about the older they get, you got a couple of seniors out there in Grant Caserta at linebacker and Jeff Heath at safety who, they've basically been 4-year players for you.
Yes. Those guys are our generals. They're our captains. And, they're the ones that get everybody in line. They're the ones that make all the calls and all the checks. And, without those guys, we don't run as smoothly as we would like.
And so they're out doing their job. But the other thing that struck me, especially in the game against Malone, is how much depth you have on the defensive side of the ball. Probably the deepest defensive unit I can recall seeing in quite some time.
It's refreshing to be able to say next guy in. So if a guy is a little tired or maybe gets dinged up on a play, just call that next guy in, and there's not much a drop off, if any. So competition is always a good thing. Those guys are always competing during the week on who's going to get more snaps during on Saturday. But depth has been awesome, and as long as we stay healthy, that depth will continue.
And really, I thought some big hits delivered in that Malone victory as well. And you've got a unit that, even some of your undersized guys, if they get an opportunity to come up and smack somebody, they're going to do it.
In practice, that's pretty much all we do in our individual periods is tackle and work on tackling, work on hitting and things like that. And it's starting to show on the field. Guys are timing up their hits a little better. They're reacting a little quicker. Maybe a missed assignment or a missed block here or there, and we're making people pay. So in the back end especially, we've got some guys that they know how to strike people, and it can be exciting at times.
And you've got a group also that you mentioned next guy in. You rotate a lot of people among your front 4, but I thought that helped because you had guys who even in the fourth quarter are chasing down the quarterback from behind.
Oh yeah. That's the big thing that we try to do up front is we try to keep guys fresh in the fourth quarter because that's when you win games in the fourth quarter. And the more guys that we can rotate in throughout the game, now we got fresh legs chasing that pass rusher down. So if the game is closer and it's a 2-minute situation, we know that we don't have to come with an all-out blitz to get pressure on the quarterback. We know those 4 guys are gonna be coming off the ball just as quick as they were in the beginning.
You also made a defensive scheme change going into last season, and so now this is your second year in that new alignment. Has that paid off in terms of players with an increased understanding of their responsibilities?
Oh, no question. Now guys, there's no longer now if we get this formation, how do you want us to align? I mean, it's one of those things where in practice what we have them do is they face me, who I stand in the secondary, and then I let the scout team get set. And I say, okay, flip and find it. And they turn around and they make all their calls and make all their checks, and they get lined up, no problem. So the comfort level is definitely there. And then with comfort brings confidence and better play.
And you probably need that, especially in this conference, because you see so many different types of offensive looks. You actually are in a little bit of a stretch now where you're going to see more option football, but then you go back to teams that play pro set and other things.
Oh, I know. It's that's why I love this league. Is that every week it's a unique challenge and a fun challenge. So this week is probably going to be one of the better offenses we're going to face all year in Findlay. But you're right. I mean, four different option attacks, and they all are a little bit different. And then you got your pro style attacks, you got your spread attacks. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It's fun.
It keeps you busy, I know, as a defensive coordinator, but also gives your players an opportunity sometimes to perform in different avenues than they normally would.
Absolutely. Especially with our star position. I mean, those guys. They could be big-time run defenders. They could be man-cover guys. It just depends on what we get. So they love it. They love the diversity. A lot of them are attention deficits, so they need something to keep them occupied. And the more we can change it up for them, the better off it is.
Well, hopefully you can keep changing it up throughout the course of the season and have continued success. Constepsis, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU volleyball coach Will Stanton. That's next on SVSU Red Alert. Saginaw Valley State University, where students learn in personal classroom settings and state-of-the-art labs, where students make a difference in Michigan's Great Lakes Bay region and study the world. A place where we celebrate red pride. Saginaw Valley State University. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU volleyball coach Will Stanton. And Will, your team has gone through 2 preseason tournaments and come through with a 4-5 record. Your assessment of the team so far?
Well, we're a pretty young team, so we've been tinkering around with the lineup a little bit, trying to figure out the best pieces to put in place. I think we ended this weekend with what might be our best lineup, but we'll find out as we head into the much tougher GLIAC schedule. So we're still trying to find ourselves. Offensively, ball control-wise, we've got some things that we do pretty well and some things that we're still working on.
I know you went in that first tournament in particular, really was kind of a murderer's row of competition, but I also know that's by design because you want to find out what are the weaknesses in my team so you have a lot of time to try to work on those.
Sure. We just went down to Florida, West Palm Beach, just a great tournament, pretty strong competition. Really too strong for us that early in the season with as young as we were, but you got to find out sometimes. So matched up with some pretty tough competition, some inter-region matches, which wouldn't have liked to have seen those that early either, but found out a lot about ourselves. Not all of it good, so we had to come back home and put a lot of work in. And it was a wake-up call, I think, for some of our upperclassmen who were used to the level of play that we've had in the past, and this is a little bit different team. So it was a big eye-opener for us that first weekend.
And I know the second weekend then would have liked maybe see another victory or two, but were able to improve over the course of that weekend as well.
Yeah, we had a little different level of competition, so we were able to try some different things, and that really allowed us to tinker with the lineup, find out who could help us, and try to put some pieces in place. So it ended up maybe not with the record that we had hoped for coming out, but by the end of the weekend, definitely playing much better ball.
You talked about obviously some of the fine seniors that you had that have now left the program. What is it like for volleyball? Because I think sometimes people don't understand how much is involved in terms of fitting in all those new pieces.
Well, if you're going to squeeze 6 girls into any space that small, there's got to be some cohesion. There's got to be a good level of communication, of understanding of the game. And people may not realize the game itself is about consistency. And when you have that many young girls who don't really know how to play at this level, let alone play together, play our style of volleyball, it takes a while to get that cohesion and to make things work the way they need to work successfully. So it's taken us a little while to find the right pieces to get the whole picture put together. It's not to say that we're even done playing with the lineup. We've got some very good players that I think can still help us. We've just got to figure out where.
And now you get to move into the GLIAC part of your schedule, and you start with those UP teams, which always seem to be very competitive matches.
Yeah, for some reason, we just always seem to have great battles with Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech. With the new schedule, with the alignment, we've got some pod structures that we play certain teams more often. Happens to be the 2 UP teams with Northern and Tech. So those matches become pretty important, especially when we play them at home. Got to protect that home court advantage. So it's hitting the ground running. Pretty important matches for us, and normally some good battles. They're both in a similar boat in that new coach at Michigan Tech, so that's always exciting for a program. You know, they're going to have a lot of enthusiasm coming in, starting their GLIAC season. And Northern is just always very strong with a good core of players there and a bunch of young players as well. So it's going to be some fun matches.
And I know you're looking forward to the home support. You've really built up a good core following for this volleyball program and have a very good home court atmosphere. We
really enjoy playing in the Cardinal Gym. It's just become an exciting place to play. The fans are right on top of the court, which makes an exciting match for them too. They get involved sometimes. A couple players, a couple fans might meet. So it's a fun place to play, especially when we have a young team. I think having that home court advantage, having the fan support becomes pretty important for us.
Well, hopefully all of that does play to your advantage and you're able to get off to a good start to the conference portion of your schedule. Will Stanton, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, JJ.
And when we come back, we will be rejoined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's male Spring Hill Suites Athlete of the Week is Adam Hansen. Hansen, a junior on the SVSU men's golf team, got off to a great start in the first tournament of the year for the Cardinals at Northern Michigan University. Hansen helped the Cardinal golf team to a victory in team competition as they went 20-10 on the weekend. Hansen managed to go undefeated on the day with a 3-0 record and backed it up with a 2-0 record to finish at 5-1 for the tournament. Hansen looks to be one of the leaders for SVSU this season, as they will have to carry their match play victory into the remaining stroke play events. Adam Hansen, your male Spring Hill Suites Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, rejoined by SVSU head football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, we talked earlier, you're 2-0 coming into this one, and now you take on a Findlay team that has had 2 weeks to prepare for you because they won their Week 1 matchup with Northern Michigan, but then didn't have a Week 2 opponent. So they've been looking at a lot of your game film, I suspect.
Sure, and I made that point very clear to our team that it really, in effect, they've had 16 days of preparation for this game because they played on a Thursday night. And obviously for Findlay, there's a little bit of an advantage in terms of how much time you can spend, but sitting out a week is another factor that you have to factor into there as well. The bottom line is we've got to do a great job of playing our game, and all of our preparation that we've done and that we normally do on a week-to-week basis has to pay off on Saturday.
And Findlay is a team that I think surprised some people last year with how successful they were. Again, last week of the regular season, they go into Wayne State and defeat Wayne State. That's the last loss Wayne State has before the national championship game. So this is definitely an opponent that you have to make sure you bring your A game.
Absolutely, and I think everything starts with their quarterback. They've got a very good quarterback, Clay Belton, good receivers, an excellent running back in Monterey Williams. So they've got weapons, probably similar to what we saw at Valdosta State in terms of offensive weapons. And we've got to do a great job defensively of pressuring the quarterback, swarming the football, preventing big plays, and we've got to tackle and be physical.
And then on the offensive side of the football for you, you get those 3 offensive linemen back who had missed 2 games. So I've got to think that is something that now you've got a full package to work with now as you game plan for Findlay.
Well, hopefully those guys come back with prepared and ready to go, and we expect them to. And to have a little bit more depth and experience at the O-line, I think, is a major plus. And I think that's something that's going to help us not just this week, but for the weeks as we get through the rest of the season. The key for us offensively has to be to protect the quarterback, and at the same time, when people are going to allow us to run the football, we've got to be effective running the football.
And again, you've talked about that balance that you've had in terms of your offensive production, and now you actually get to have a full complement of tight ends back, as Zach Sesich will be back at tight end instead of playing offensive tackle. So, again, that's one more thing that you get in the repertoire.
Absolutely, and Zach was a big play guy for us last year, and in his career, he's been a big play tight end. And to have him back at tight end, I think is a plus. And I got to hand it to Zach. I mean, when you're a tight end, you're used to getting the football thrown to you and scoring touchdowns, and you unselfishly ask to get moved to left tackle to help the team. I think that's a statement about who you are as an individual, and we appreciate it, and I think our whole program does, Zach's desire to want to help the team. But it's going to be great. You can see the smile back on his face a little bit on Saturday after that bus trip of when I said, Zach, you're going to be back at tight end. And he's excited about that. He wants to help our team by getting the football in his hands and scoring touchdowns, and he's going to have the opportunity to do that.
And on the defensive side of the football, you've had everybody back, and you could see what kind of a pass rush you're able to generate in that game against Malone. They did a lot of things to not only with protection, but with scheme, try to move their quarterback around, but still, he faced a lot of pressure all game long.
Absolutely, and not just the talent that we have at the D-line, because I think we're talented, I think we run well, but they played with great desire. They refused to get blocked, they got after the quarterback, and they've got to play that way every week.
And I thought in terms of the secondary as well, as you said, gave up the one big play against Valdosta, but by and large, they've been able to keep things in front of them.
I like the way our secondary is running, to the football, but I also like the way they've been disciplined. The Malone offense, the way it was running, they got somebody behind us and scored the one touchdown. But for the most part, our guys have been very disciplined, reading their keys, and when the ball's in the air, we've been taking off and getting to the football.
So what do you do now to get ready for, again, this Findlay team that comes in here and, again, wants to make a statement that they want to be among the contenders in the GLIAC Conference this year?
The same formula we've used the last 2 weeks. Great preparation. I think preparation is what gives you the confidence to go out and perform well on Saturdays. The other part of it is great desire, when the ball gets kicked off. And I think we've seen that out of our football team. And Valdosta State, we had some breaks go against us, but we played hard for 60 minutes, and when we had to win that game, we made the plays late in the game to win it. This week against Malone, we didn't have that type of a football game, but still, we played with great desire, and that's going to be the key. Great desire, great effort, playing together.
We'll see if that recipe comes together against Findlay. Coach Collins, good luck against the Oilers.
Thanks, JJ.
And we thank you for watching, and we hope you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.